So, comrades, friends, distinguished representatives of the embassies of the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the Republic of Cuba, and our comrades from the JVP Sri Lanka. We warmly welcome you to this celebration of the Great October Socialist Revolution, a turning point not only in world politics, but in the history of culture itself. The October Revolution marked the beginning of a new era, the moment when the peoples, long oppressed, exploited, and denied the means of expression, entered the stage of history not merely as subjects, but as creators of their own future. Great revolutions are always followed by great developments in the arts. So it was with 1789, with the 19th century revolutions, and above all, with 1917. October transformed the very foundations of cultural life. It brought forth new forms of cinema, literature, theater, and visual art, not as ornaments of a new state, but as instruments of social transformation. For the first time in history, culture ceased to be the privilege of the elites. The revolution made art accessible to the peoples. It democratized knowledge, opened the doors of schools and theaters to peasants and workers, and launched massive literacy campaigns across the former empire. Where once millions were illiterate, unable to read or write, a cultural awakening began. The peoples of the vast empire, many of whom lacked written languages, began to write their own histories in their own tongues. October thus liberated not only the peoples politically, but linguistically and culturally. Before 1917, Russia's cultural development was deeply tied to Western Europe. Its artistic experimentation emerged from European movements, shaped by the same crisis that led to the First World War and the February Revolution. But these experiments were also limited by the horizons of the imperialist world from which they arose. The Tsarist state, and later the provisional government, kept Russia within the imperialist system, continuing the war, relying on Western finance, and seeking legitimacy through imitation of European models. Artistic life mirrored this dependence. Even its avant-garde remained trapped in a Eurocentric framework, detached from the realities of the peasantry and the oppressed peoples of the empire. The leaders of the Second International had declared that socialism could not succeed in such a backward country, that Russia must wait for the revolutions of the West. But October proved them wrong. The peoples of Russia opened a new path to modernity, one that rejected both imperial subservience and cultural imitation. It was a revolution not only against the bourgeois state, but against cultural dependency itself. The October Revolution unleashed the creative energies of the peoples who had been imprisoned within the old empire, the prison of nations. It affirmed their right to express themselves through their own languages, traditions, and art forms. For the first time, peasant songs, folk art, and national traditions were not seen as relics of the past, but as the living foundation of the new socialist culture. The working people, those whom Marx called the leading force of the nation, became not merely the subject of art, but its makers and guardians. Lenin understood this deeply. For him, the Cultural Revolution was not an abstract concept, but a process of raising up the people, of enabling them to master the cultural heritage of humanity, including the classics of the past, and to transform them in accordance with their own experience. Under Tsarism, artists and writers often lived in opposition to the state, but within the same social structures that excluded the masses. The Silver Age of Russian culture, from the symbolists to the early modernists, produced profound work, but it reflected the isolation of the intelligentsia from the common people. Some, like Bloch and Gorky, initially hesitated before the revolution, yet came to recognize its necessity. As the Chinese writer Lu Xun would later observe in 1932, when introducing Soviet literature to Chinese readers, in an age of revolution, many men of letters are bound to wither away, while many others will plunge into the great cataclysmic new waves, only to be swallowed up or wounded. The October Revolution opened up a new world. This was the essence of the transformation October demanded, the union of artistic creation with the life of the people. The Bolsheviks faced the enormous challenge of organizing cultural life amid war, famine, and foreign intervention. Yet, they resisted both bureaucratic control and the reduction of culture to mere propaganda. Lenin warned against isolating art from the people, whether through elitism or through the dogma of the so-called prolet cult, proletarian art. For him, the task was to elevate the people through culture, not to flatten culture to its lowest level. From these struggles emerged a new artistic responsibility: to build, to educate, to humanize. Before the October Revolution, revolutionary art was an art of opposition, underground, critical, calling for the destruction of the old order. After 1917, it became an art of construction. Its task was to depict the new life taking shape, to celebrate collective progress, and to forge a consciousness fit for a socialist society. Through socialist realism and other forms of popular expression, art became a builder of unity and optimism. It showed the peoples not only what they were, but what they could become through their own labor and solidarity. The revolution's cultural project was thus not the work of a few artists, but the collective work of the peoples themselves. The cultural impact of the October Revolution did not stop at Russia's borders. It resonated across the world, inspiring movements of liberation and decolonization in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. For the first time, a state openly rejected colonialism, not only as a political order, but as a cultural one. The Soviet experience offered a model for reclaiming national identity from the grip of imperialism, linking independence to the creativity of the people. In China, the salvos of the October Revolution brought Marxism-Leninism, as Chairman Mao would later say. Lu Xun, inspired by 1917, helped awaken the Chinese people through literature, merging artistic creation with revolutionary commitment. In Cuba, in Vietnam, in Venezuela, in every nation that fought against imperialism, the example of October helped define a new cultural horizon, one that made art not a privilege, but a weapon in the struggle for dignity and independence. Today, when imperialism seeks once again to dominate through culture, rewriting history, destroying monuments, erasing memory, the lesson of October remains vital. True culture cannot exist without independence, and no independence can be sustained without culture. From the defense of Soviet monuments to the preservation of national traditions in Cuba or Venezuela, from the creative resilience of the peoples of China and Laos to the revolutionary heritage of Sri Lanka, we see that culture remains both shield and compass for the people's struggles. And now, comrades, before we conclude, we turn from words to music, for music has always been one of the most powerful forms of revolutionary culture. In moments of struggle and hope, it has carried the voices of the people, transforming private grief and courage into collective action. Tonight, our comrade Eleanor will sing 3 songs, each one a testament to the journey we have traced, from the burdens of the past, through the storms of revolution, to the confident steps of a new society. We begin with the Volga Boatmen, a song that resonates with the weight of centuries. Born from the suffering of serfs, immortalized by Ilya Repin's painting, and later carried by Paul Robeson, whose voice linked the pain of Russian laborers with that of the oppressed across the world, including the descendants of African slaves.
Once more, but then yet once more. Once more, but then yet once more. As along the shores we run, sing a shanty in the sun. I Haida, 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 sing a shanty in the sun. Euknium, euknium, once more buzz and yet once more. Volga, Volga, more the stream, oh, the river broad and deep. Haida, 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 once more buzz and yet once more. Volga, Volga, more the stream. Euknium, euknium, Yeshodazik, Yeshodaras, euknium, euknium.
The second song, Varsavianka, or Whirlwinds of Danger, became a rallying cry across Europe from Poland to Russia for all who refused to kneel before oppression, reminding us that the October Revolution was part of a wider movement for justice, equality, and freedom from imperialism.
Whirlwinds of dangers are raging around us, overwhelming forces of darkness assail. Still in the fight, see advancing before us, red flag of liberty that yet shall prevail. Then, would you workers, freedom awaits you over the world, on the land and the sea. On with the fight for the crowns of humanity. March, march, you toilers, and the world shall be free. Women and children and hungers are calling. Shall we be silent to the sorrow and woe? While in the fight, see our brothers are falling. Up then united and conquer the foe, then free. Forward, you workers, freedom awaits you over the world, on the land and the sea. On with the fight for the cause of humanity. March, march, you toilers, and the world shall be free. Off with the crowns of the tyrants of favor, down in the dust with the prince and the peer. Strike off your chain, all you brave son of labor. Wakes all humanity, for victory is near. Then forward, you workers, freedom awaits you over the world, on the land and the sea. On with the fight for the cause of humanity. March, march, you toilers, and the world shall be free. Then forward, you workers, freedom awaits you over the world, on the land and the sea. On with the fight for the cause of humanity. March, march, you toilers, and the world shall be free.
Finally, we conclude with Bravely, Comrades, Let's March, lyrics by the revolutionary poet Leonid Radin. Written while he was imprisoned for his dedication to the liberation of the working class, this song led the Russian working class to October, and during the Civil War, it resounded on all fronts as the March of the Red Army. Radin's melody, drawn from Ivan Nikitin's poetry, transformed the lyrical into the martial, turning hope and courage into a march. The song resonated in prison cells, in secret gatherings, and across the streets during demonstrations. Lenin himself heard it in exile and recognized its power.
Comrade, the bugles are sounding. Shoulder your arms for the fray. Boldly we'll fight for our freedom. Bravely we'll use out the way. Boldly we'll fight for our freedom. Bravely we'll use out the way. Born in the ranks of the workers, whose scanty wage must suffice. Brotherhood, unity, freedom, this is a fighting device. Brotherhood, unity, freedom, this is a fighting device. Hungers and chain wars are option, feeding the beggars and crumbs. Now light is piercing the darkness, down of deliverance comes. Now light is piercing the darkness, dawn of deliverance comes. Singing we hasten to battle, speed, let us speed to the fight. Soldiers of freedom we fear not, kings and then shadow we might. Soldiers of freedom we fear not, kings and the shadow we might. Firm in a faith we shall conquer, slavery work we shall break. Welcoming death even gaily, fighting for liberty's sake. Welcoming death even gaily, fighting for liberty's sake. Comrade, the bugles are sounding. Shoulder your arms for the fray. Boldly we'll fight for our freedom. Bravely we'll yield out the way. Boldly we'll fight for our freedom. Bravely we'll yield out the way.
Amazing. Comrades and friends, the October Revolution gave birth to a culture that belongs to humanity, a culture that educates, uplifts, and unites. It transformed art into a force for liberation and proved that even in the harshest conditions, the peoples can create beauty and meaning. Its anti-imperialist legacy continues to unite us, peoples who strive for independence, peace, and dignity. In this spirit, our party reaffirms its commitment to deepen cultural cooperation with your countries as part of our shared struggle for a just and humane world. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, George. Thank you, Eleanor. That was beautiful and very inspiring. It's always important to remember just in how many ways the October Revolution changed the world and shaped the world that we live in today. It's a truth not taught to us in our history books, how so much of what we have as working people across the world we owe to the legacy of October and the great struggles of the peoples of Russia and the Russian Empire.